The discovery. Zara adjusted the controls of the small scavenger ship, her three-fingered hands moving with precision. The asteroid field stretched endlessly before her, a chaotic graveyard of broken ships and ancient ruins. Beside her, Minala leaned forward, her four eyes glowing faintly in the dim light of the cockpit. "Are you sure this is worth it?" Minala asked, her voice tinged with doubt. "We've been scanning for hours and found nothing but debris." Zara smirked, her confidence unshaken. "Patience, Minala. The old logs said there's something here, something untouched. It could be a find of a lifetime." The ship's scanner beeped suddenly, a sharp sound that made both of them sit up. On the holographic display, a faint signal appeared, deep within the densest part of the asteroid cluster. The signal was old, almost ancient, but it pulsed steadily. "There!" Zara exclaimed, her excitement barely contained. "That's no ordinary wreckage. Let's check it out." Minala hesitated. "That area is unstable. If we get caught in a collapse..." "We won't," Zara interrupted, already guiding the ship toward the signal. "Trust me." As they approached the source, the ship's lights illuminated the remains of a massive structure. It was an ancient space station, its once proud walls now reduced to jagged edges and twisted metal. Zara brought the ship closer, maneuvering carefully to avoid the drifting debris. "This place feels wrong," Minala murmured, her usually steady voice faltering. "Like something terrible happened here." Zara ignored her partner's unease. "Terrible or not, it's a goldmine for scavengers like us. Let's suit up." The two donned their environment suits, their gear humming softly as it powered on. Moments later, they stepped into the station's dark, hollow corridors. The air was stale, carrying a faint metallic tang. Every sound, every footstep, every creak of the structure echoed eerily. Their lights cut through the darkness, revealing glimpses of a once thriving facility. Broken machinery, shattered glass, and faded insignias lined the walls. One symbol caught Minala's attention, the blue and green sphere encircled by stars. "What's this?" she asked, pointing. Zara glanced at it and shrugged. "No idea. Probably just an old logo." They pressed on, following the signal deeper into the station. The path was treacherous, with collapsed ceilings and unstable floors forcing them to move cautiously. The signal grew stronger, its rhythmic pulse, almost like a heartbeat. Finally, they entered a large chamber, its center dominated by a cylindrical pod encased in glass. The pod was intact, its surface covered in frost and strange markings. Zara's scanner buzzed wildly as it analyzed the object. This is it," Zara whispered, her voice filled with awe. "It's a cryopod, and it's still functioning." Minala stepped closer, her breath catching as she peered through the frosted glass. Inside was a figure, humanoid, yet unlike any species she had ever seen. The being's features were sharp, its body clad in a strange metallic suit. Despite the millennia that must have passed, the being looked as though it had just fallen asleep. "Zara," Minala said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Is that a human?" Zara froze, her mind racing. Humans were a myth, a species that had vanished 800,000 years ago. Stories spoke of their destruction at the hands of the Galactic Council, their homeworld reduced to ashes. And yet, here one was, preserved against all odds. "It can't be," Zara said, though her trembling voice betrayed her disbelief. "Humans are extinct." Minala placed a hand on the pod, her fingers tracing the frosty glass. "Not this one." Before Zara could respond, the chamber lights flickered. A low rumble echoed through the station, followed by a voice from their ship's communicator. "Zara, Minala, you've triggered something. There's movement outside. Unknown ships are approaching." Zara cursed under her breath. "We've been spotted. We need to move." "But what about the pod?" Minala asked, her eyes wide with urgency. Zara hesitated for only a moment before making her decision. We're taking it. Help me disconnect it. The two worked quickly, detaching the pod from its ancient cradle. It was heavier than they expected, but adrenaline fueled their efforts. The rumble grew louder, and the station began to shake, as if protesting their intrusion. "Let's go," Zara shouted, leading the way back to the ship. They barely made it aboard as the station began to collapse. Zara powered up the engines, steering the ship away from the crumbling ruins. Through the viewport, they watched as the ancient structure disappeared into the void, taking its secrets with it. As the ship stabilized, Minala looked at the pod, now secured in the cargo bay. "What have we done?" she murmured, a mix of wonder and fear in her voice. Zara glanced back at the cryopod, her expression unreadable. "We found something impossible, something the galaxy wasn't meant to see." The camera lingers on the pod, frost still clinging to its surface as the faint sound of a heartbeat resonates through the silence. The awakening. The cryopod sat in the center of the ship's cargo bay, its surface gleaming under the stereo lights. Zara and Minala stood over it, their expressions a mix of awe and unease. The ship's engines hummed softly in the background, the only sound in the otherwise tense silence. "Are we really doing this?" Minala asked, her four eyes darting between Zara and the pod. "This isn't just some ancient artifact. It's a living being. A human." Zara sighed, her fingers hovering over the pod's controls. "We didn't come this far to leave it frozen. If we want answers, we have to wake it." Minala hesitated, her mind racing with all the tales she'd heard about humans. They were said to be powerful, unpredictable, and fiercely protective of their kind. If this one woke up and saw aliens standing over it, what would it do? "Fine," Minala relented, stepping back. "But if it tries to kill us, I'm blaming you." Zara smirked, though the nervous flicker in her eyes betrayed her confidence. She pressed a sequence of buttons on the pod's interface, and the machinery whirred to life. Frost melted from the glass, revealing the human within more clearly. Its chest rose and fell in shallow breaths, a sign of life that hadn't existed in this galaxy for millennia. The ship's systems beeped a warning. "Revival sequence initiated," the computer announced. "Biological stabilization in progress." They watched as the human's eyes fluttered open, revealing piercing green irises that seemed to glow with an otherworldly intensity. The human gasped, its body convulsing slightly before it stilled. For a moment, silence hung heavy in the air. Then the human spoke. "Where am I?" The voice was hoarse, strained from centuries of disuse, but it carried a weight that sent shivers down Zara and Minala's spines. "You're safe," Zara said cautiously, raising her hands to show she meant no harm. "You've been in cryo-sleep for a very long time. We found you in the wreckage of an ancient station." The human's gaze shifted to her, then to Minala, and back to the unfamiliar surroundings. Confusion turned to alarm as it tried to sit up, only to groan in pain and fall back against the pod's interior. "Easy," Minala said, stepping closer despite her fear. "Your body's still adjusting. Don't push yourself." The human's eyes narrowed, its gaze sharp despite its weakened state. "Who are you? What are you?" Zara took a deep breath. "I'm Zara. This is Minala. We're not human. Our species evolved long after yours. You're the only human we've ever seen." The human's expression darkened, and its fists clenched weakly at its sides. "Then, the others. My people." Zara hesitated, glancing at Minala. Neither of them wanted to deliver the truth, but there was no use hiding it. "Your planet, Earth," Zara began carefully, "was destroyed over 800,000 years ago. You're the last one we found. Maybe the last one alive." The human's breathing quickened, and for a moment, they thought it might pass out. But instead, it laughed, a bitter, hollow sound that echoed in the small room. "Figures," it muttered. "They were always too scared of us. Couldn't let us be." "What do you mean?" Minala asked, curiosity overcoming her fear. The human stared at them, its gaze piercing. The Galactic Council. They destroyed us, didn't they? They feared what we could become. Zara and Minala exchanged uneasy glances. The Galactic Council was a name that loomed over every species in the galaxy. They were the enforcers of order, the self-proclaimed protectors of civilization. But there were whispers, dark rumors of what they did to those who defied them. We don't know the full story, Zara admitted. But the Council, they've done terrible things. We've seen it ourselves. The humans' eyes hardened. Then nothing's changed. Before they could respond, the ship's alarms blared, cutting through the tension. Zara rushed to the cockpit, her heart racing. The scanners showed a massive ship closing in on their position. "It's the Council," she called out. "They must have tracked us from the station." Minala cursed under her breath. "They'll want the human. What do we do?" The human, still weak but fueled by determination, managed to sit up. "You can't let them take me," it said, its voice steady despite its condition. "If they find out I'm alive, they'll hunt you down too. I'm not just some relic to them. I'm a threat." Zara hesitated, her mind racing. They had risked everything to uncover this secret, but now it seemed they had stumbled into something far bigger than they'd anticipated. "Strap in," she said finally, her voice firm. "We're not handing you over to anyone." The human's lips curled into a faint, grim smile. "Good. Let's see if they're still afraid of us." As the Council ship loomed closer, Zara pushed the engines to their limit. The chase was on, and with it, the spark of something that hadn't existed in the galaxy for nearly 1,000,000 years. Hope. The chase. The scavenger ship shuddered violently as Zara pushed its engines to the brink. In the distance, the ominous silhouette of the Galactic Council's patrol vessel grew larger, its sleek design and powerful thrusters a reminder of the overwhelming force they faced. "Shields at 60%, Minala reported, her hands flying over the console. "They've locked onto us. If they get a clean shot, we're done." In the cargo bay, the human, Ethan, as he had introduced himself moments earlier, sat strapped into a chair, his face pale but resolute. Despite his condition, his piercing green eyes never left the view outside the small viewport. He was watching, calculating. "Do you even have weapons on this thing?" Ethan asked, his voice strained but sharp. "No," Zara yelled from the cockpit, her focus on navigating through the asteroid field. "We're scavengers, not warriors. Our best weapon is running." "That's comforting," Ethan muttered, his fingers gripping the armrests tightly as another blast rocked the ship. The Council ship unleashed a volley of plasma bolts, each one narrowly missing the smaller craft. Zara banked hard to the left, weaving through the dense asteroid field with practiced precision. Her ship wasn't built for combat, but its small size and agility gave them a fleeting advantage. Minala turned to Ethan, her four eyes narrowing. "Do humans have a plan for situations like this, or do you just sit there looking dramatic?" Ethan smirked despite the tension. "Humans always have a plan. You just might not like it." Before Minala could retort, the ship jolted violently, and sparks flew from the control panels. The Council's plasma fire had grazed their rear thrusters, and warning lights flashed red across the cockpit. "Engines are failing," Zara shouted. "We won't last much longer." Ethan unstrapped himself and staggered toward the cockpit, ignoring Minala's protests. He grabbed onto the back of Zara's seat, his expression grim. "Do you trust me?" he asked, his voice low and steady. Zara shot him a bewildered glance. "What kind of question is that right now?" "Do you trust me?" he repeated, his tone unwavering. Zara hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. "I don't have much choice, do I?" Ethan leaned over, examining the ship's controls. Despite the unfamiliar technology, he seemed to grasp the basics quickly. His fingers hovered over the navigation panel as he studied the asteroid field ahead. "Take us toward that cluster," he said, pointing to a dense patch of asteroids glowing faintly with energy. "It'll buy us some time." Those are volatile. Minala protested. If we hit one, we're dead. Ethan turned to her, his eyes blazing with intensity. If we stay here, we're dead anyway. Your call. Zara didn't wait for further debate. She steered the ship toward the glowing cluster, her jaw clenched. The council ship followed, its weapons lighting up the darkness with bursts of plasma fire. As they entered the volatile zone, the asteroids began to react, their surfaces crackling with electrical energy. The council ship hesitated, its crew clearly aware of the danger. Ethan seized the opportunity. Now cut the main thrusters and fire a decoy drone, he ordered. Zara glanced at him as if he were insane but followed his instructions. The ship's engines powered down, and a small drone shot out, emitting a bright burst of light and heat. The council ship, mistaking it for their quarry, redirected its fire. The scavenger ship drifted silently among the asteroids, hidden by the electromagnetic interference. The council ship slowed, its crew scanning the area in confusion. Brilliant, Minala muttered, her voice tinged with reluctant admiration. But they'll figure it out soon enough. Ethan nodded. Then we make sure they don't have the chance. He turned back to the navigation console, his fingers moving quickly. This ship's reactor, can it be overloaded? Zara's eyes widened. You want to blow up my ship? Not the whole ship, Ethan said, his tone calm. Just enough to create a diversion. We release the reactor's stabilizers, set it to discharge energy into the field, and watch the fireworks. The council ship will be too busy dodging explosions to notice us slipping away. Minala gaped at him. You're insane. Maybe, Ethan said with a faint smile. But do you have a better idea? Reluctantly, Zara activated the reactor's override system. The ship's interior lights dimmed as power rerouted, and the reactor began to emit a low, ominous hum. Stabilizers offline, Minala reported, her voice tense. This better work, human. Ethan grinned, his confidence infectious. It will. Zara guided the ship out of the asteroid field just as the reactor discharged its stored energy. A chain reaction rippled through the glowing asteroids, sending waves of electrical explosions cascading through the field. The council ship veered wildly, struggling to avoid the chaos. The scavenger ship slipped away, its damaged engines sputtering but functional. As the explosions faded behind them, Zara let out a shaky breath. We're alive, she said, almost in disbelief. For now, Ethan replied, his expression grim. But they'll be back. And next time, they won't underestimate us. Zara turned to him, her curiosity outweighing her frustration. Who are you, really? Ethan's eyes gleamed with a mix of determination and sadness. I'm the last human. And if the council fears me, it's for a good reason. The camera pans to the distant council ship, damaged but still pursuing, as tension builds for the next chapter. The secrets of Cryo-Sleep. The scavenger ship limped through the void, its thrusters sputtering intermittently. Zara and Minala worked tirelessly to stabilize the ship's systems, while Ethan sat in the dimly lit cargo bay, his gaze fixed on the stars outside. The silence between them was thick, filled with unspoken questions. Minala broke the silence first, stepping into the cargo bay with a datapad in hand. Her 4 eyes studied Ethan carefully, her usual sarcasm replaced with a rare seriousness. I ran a scan on your cryopod, she said, her voice measured. It's not just a stasis chamber. It's more advanced than anything I've ever seen. There are layers of encryption in its systems, data locked away, even from us. Ethan leaned forward, his interest piqued. What kind of data? Minala hesitated. Memories, maybe. Instructions. Whatever it is, it's tied to your genetic profile. Only you can unlock it. Ethan's brows furrowed, his mind racing. He couldn't remember much about how he had ended up in the pod, but fragments of his past began to surface. Flashes of a desperate mission, faces he couldn't name, and a voice repeating the words, "Preserve the legacy." Can you decode it? He asked, his voice steady but tense. Minala sighed. I can try, but it'll take time. And if the council catches up with us before then, it won't matter. Zara entered the room, her expression grim. We don't have much time. The council ship is still tracking us. We need a plan, and fast. Ethan stood, his movements still stiff from the effects of cryo-sleep. There's a reason they're so desperate to capture me. Whatever's in that pod, it's not just about me. It's about humanity. I need to know what they're afraid of. Minala gave him a pointed look. Afraid of you, or afraid of what you might remember? Ethan didn't answer. He wasn't sure himself. The Archive planet. The ship's navigational system beeped, breaking the tension. Zara rushed to the cockpit, followed closely by the others. On the display, a map of the galaxy appeared, highlighting a remote, uninhabited planet shrouded in an electromagnetic fog. It's an archive world, Zara explained. The Council abandoned it centuries ago. It's dangerous to navigate, but it's one of the only places we can hide. And it might have the technology we need to unlock your data. Ethan stared at the glowing dot on the map. Something about the name of the planet, Zovira Prime, stirred a faint memory in him. He couldn't place it, but it felt familiar. Let's go, he said firmly. If the answers are there, we can't waste time. The arrival. The journey to Zovira Prime was fraught with tension. The electromagnetic fog surrounding the planet wreaked havoc on the ship's systems, forcing Zara to navigate manually. Ethan watched her work, impressed by her skill. Not bad for a scavenger, he said, a faint smirk on his lips. Zara shot him a glance. You're lucky I don't leave you here. Humans might be ancient, but you've got a talent for annoying people. Minala chuckled from the co-pilot's seat. That's the most human thing about him. Their banter was cut short as the planet came into view. Zovira Prime was a desolate gray sphere, its surface scarred by massive craters and strange glowing fissures. As they descended, the ship trembled under the strain of the planet's magnetic interference. The landing was rough, but Zara managed to bring the ship down in one piece. Outside, the air shimmered with an unnatural haze, and the landscape was littered with ruins of long-forgotten structures. This place is creepy, Minala muttered as they donned their environment suits. Why does every ancient site have to feel like a death trap? Ethan adjusted his suit, his mind focused. Because the best secrets are the ones worth protecting. The unlocking. The trio made their way to a massive, crumbling building that loomed in the distance. Inside, they found rows of ancient consoles, their screens flickering faintly with residual power. Minala quickly went to work, connecting Ethan's cryopod to one of the consoles. Whatever's in here, she said, her voice filled with anticipation. We're about to find out. Ethan placed his hand on the cryopod, the cold surface sending a shiver up his spine. As the console began to decrypt the data, images flashed across the screen. Schematics, records of experiments, and a map of distant star systems. Then, a message appeared, written in an ancient Earth language. Ethan read it aloud, his voice tinged with awe. To those who survive, humanity's strength is not in its weapons, but in its unity. The future lies in your hands. Zara and Minala exchanged glances, the weight of the words sinking in. Before they could process what it meant, an alert blared from their comms. The council ship is here, Zara said, her voice sharp. They found us. Ethan clenched his fists, his jaw set. They're not taking this from us. Not again. As the trio prepared to face the approaching threat, the message on the screen flickered one last time, revealing coordinates to a hidden system. Ethan's eyes widened. These aren't just answers, he said. They're instructions. There might be others. The tension reached a boiling point as the sound of approaching council forces echoed through the ruins. The stakes had never been higher. A glimpse of hope. The ruins of the archive world buzzed with ancient energy, the dim glow of forgotten technology casting eerie shadows across the crumbling walls. Ethan stood before the console, the coordinates still burning in his mind. Behind him, Zara and Minala worked frantically to fortify their position. Outside, the rumble of council ships descending sent tremors through the ground. Dust fell from the ceiling in thin streams, reminding them all how fragile their refuge was. "How close are they?" Ethan asked, his voice steady despite the tension. Zara glanced at her scanner, her expression grim. "Minutes away. They're deploying ground teams." Minala slammed a fresh power cell into her blaster, her 4 eyes gleaming with determination. "We can't fight them head-on. Not with what we have." Ethan turned from the console, his mind racing. "We don't need to fight them. We just need to buy enough time to get what we came for." Zara frowned. "And how do you propose we do that, genius?" A faint smile tugged at Ethan's lips. "You're scavengers. You're good at making things look worse than they are, right?" The trap. The trio moved quickly, rigging the ruins with improvised traps. Old machinery sparked to life as Minala rewired dormant systems to create a series of distractions and hazards. Zara planted decoy signals throughout the area, making it impossible for the council to pinpoint their exact location. Ethan, meanwhile, studied the data from his cryopod. The encrypted files revealed fragments of humanity's desperate final days, hastily constructed cryo-stations, hidden caches of advanced technology, and star maps leading to uncharted systems. Most importantly, it hinted at the existence of other humans who might have survived. "This isn't just about me," Ethan murmured, his eyes fixed on the screen. "They scattered us, like seeds in the wind. Humanity might still be out there." Minala glanced over at him as she tightened a bolt on a makeshift explosive. "Let's hope they're better at hiding than you are." Ethan smirked but didn't respond. His attention was drawn to a final encrypted file labeled simply, "Legacy Protocol." Before he could open it, Zara's voice cut through his focus. "They're here." The infiltration. The first wave of council soldiers entered cautiously, their movements precise and deliberate. Clad in sleek, black armor, they looked more like machines than living beings. Their weapons scanned the environment, detecting the slightest heat signatures. One soldier approached a humming console, only for it to spark violently, sending a surge of electricity through its suit. The others reacted instantly, raising their weapons and firing into the shadows. "Idiots," Minala whispered from her hiding spot. "They're shooting at ghosts." The chaos allowed the trio to stay one step ahead, moving through the ruins like phantoms. Zara's decoys emitted bursts of static and heat, drawing the soldiers deeper into the labyrinth of crumbling walls. Ethan, however, wasn't hiding. He had stayed behind at the main console, where the final decryption was nearly complete. The Legacy Protocol was a blueprint, a plan to rebuild humanity, not through weapons, but through alliances. It outlined how humans had intended to unite the galaxy, using their adaptability and ingenuity to foster cooperation among species. A lump formed in Ethan's throat as he realized the full weight of the message. Humanity had been destroyed not because it was a threat, but because it had the potential to create something greater. A galaxy where no species would stand alone. The sound of heavy footsteps pulled him from his thoughts. A squad of soldiers had found him. The confrontation. The leader of the squad aimed its weapon at Ethan, its voice cold and mechanical. "Human, surrender the data, and your death will be swift." Ethan raised his hand slowly, his mind racing. "You don't even know what you're fighting against, do you? The Council didn't destroy us because we were dangerous. They destroyed us because we offered something they couldn't control." The soldier hesitated, its head tilting slightly. "Your words are irrelevant. Comply or die." Before the soldier could act, a blinding flash lit up the room. Minala's improvised explosive detonated, sending a shockwave through the ruins. The soldiers staggered, their systems temporarily scrambled. Zara appeared from the shadows, her blaster firing precise shots that disabled the squad's leader. "Move, Ethan," she shouted. Ethan grabbed the data core from the console and ran, the echoes of pursuing soldiers close behind. Minala covered their retreat, her traps triggering a series of cascading explosions that slowed their enemies, but couldn't stop them entirely. The escape. The trio sprinted back to their ship, their path illuminated by the faint glow of Zovira Prime's fissures. The Council's forces were relentless, their footsteps pounding like a drumbeat of inevitability. "Engines are barely holding together," Zera warned as they boarded. "If they hit us, we're done." Ethan placed the data core into the ship's central console. "Just get us off this rock. I'll handle the rest." As Zera piloted the ship through the electromagnetic fog, Ethan worked furiously to integrate the data into the ship's systems. The coordinates from the Legacy Protocol formed a clear path, a way out. The Council's ships closed in, their weapons charging for a final strike. Ethan activated the ship's remaining power reserves, channeling them into the shields and engines. "Hold on," Zera yelled as she pushed the ship into an impossible dive. The electromagnetic interference surged, distorting the Council's targeting systems. The scavenger ship disappeared into the fog, leaving their pursuers behind. The revelation. As the ship drifted into the safety of deep space, the trio collapsed into the cockpit. Exhaustion etched into their faces. Minala looked at Ethan, her curiosity overpowering her fatigue. "So, what's on that data core? Was all of this worth it?" Ethan stared at the holographic star map, now projected before them. The Legacy Protocol's coordinates pointed to a system far beyond the Council's reach, a system where humanity's hope still flickered. "It's not just about survival," Ethan said, his voice filled with quiet determination. "It's about rebuilding. Humanity's story isn't over." The camera lingers on the star map as the ship accelerates toward the unknown, the glimmer of hope burning brighter than ever. The truth unveiled. The ship soared through uncharted space, its engines humming steadily despite the earlier damage. The trio sat in the cockpit, the weight of their journey pressing down on them. Before them, the holographic star map pulsed with a glowing point of light, a destination cloaked in secrecy, deep in the void. "This is it," Ethan said, his voice tinged with awe. "The coordinates lead here. This system. It's off every known chart. It's as if someone didn't want it to be found." Zera frowned, her three-fingered hands gripping the controls. "Or didn't want anything getting out. Are you sure about this, human? We're walking into the unknown." Ethan met her gaze, his green eyes steady. "Humanity left these coordinates for a reason. If there's even a chance we're not alone, I have to see it through." Minala sighed, her four eyes scanning the displays. "Great. Another suicidal mission. Let's hope this one doesn't end with us as space debris." The arrival. As the ship approached the system, the void seemed to shift. The usual black expanse of space was replaced by a swirling field of shimmering colors, an energy barrier unlike anything they had encountered before. Minala's scanners buzzed with erratic readings, and the ship's systems flickered. "This isn't natural," Zera muttered, her voice laced with unease. "It's a defense mechanism. Whoever built this didn't want visitors." Ethan studied the barrier, a faint memory stirring in his mind. He closed his eyes, letting the fragments resurface. He saw a council chamber, faces filled with urgency, and a voice speaking clearly. "The legacy must be hidden, even from ourselves." "It's a shield," he said, his voice distant. "Not to keep us out, but to keep something in." Before Zera could respond, the barrier shimmered, and a small passage opened, as if acknowledging their presence. The ship was pulled through gently, the swirling colors giving way to the serene blackness of a hidden system. At its center was a planet, its surface glowing faintly with bioluminescent patterns. "Well," Minala said, leaning back in her chair, "that's not ominous at all." The hidden planet. The planet's atmosphere was thick with mist, casting an ethereal glow over the lush alien landscape. The trio stepped out of the ship cautiously, their weapons at the ready. The ground beneath their feet felt soft and warm, pulsating faintly as if alive. "This place is alive," Zara whispered, scanning the area with her handheld device. "The energy readings are off the charts. It's like the planet itself is a machine." Ethan knelt down, running his hand across the strange, glowing surface. As he touched it, the ground shifted, forming symbols that lit up in a pattern. He recognized the markings. They were ancient human, a script used in humanity's golden age. "It's a message," he said, standing. "Something left for us to find." Before they could decipher the symbols, a low hum filled the air. The trio turned to see towering, humanoid figures emerging from the mist. They were translucent, their forms flickering like holograms. Despite their ghostly appearance, their presence was overwhelming. "Welcome, human," one of the figures said, its voice resonating in their minds. "You have traveled far to reach us." The Guardians. The figures identified themselves as Guardians, remnants of an ancient AI designed to protect humanity's most valuable legacy. They explained that the planet was a vault, containing not only humanity's history, but also its genetic code, cultural archives, and technological advancements. "You are the first to find us in over 800,000 years, the Guardian said, its glowing form hovering before Ethan. "We were programmed to wait for the day when humanity would rise again." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. "Rise again? You mean there are others?" The Guardian hesitated. "There were. Cryostations were scattered across the galaxy, designed to preserve your species, but the Galactic Council hunted them relentlessly. Many were destroyed. Some, perhaps, remain hidden." The weight of the revelation was staggering. Humanity's extinction had not been a sudden act of destruction. It had been a prolonged genocide, orchestrated to erase an entire species from existence. "But why?" Zara asked, her voice trembling. "Why did the Council do this?" The Guardian's glow dimmed slightly, as if mourning the answer. They feared what humanity represented: unity, adaptability, and the ability to bring together species in a way no other could. Humanity was a threat to their control. Ethan clenched his fists, his heart pounding. "And you just waited? You didn't try to stop them?" "We are bound by our programming," the Guardian replied. "Our purpose was preservation, not intervention. But now that you are here, the choice is yours." The Legacy Protocol. The Guardians led them to a massive chamber deep within the planet. At its center was a crystalline structure, pulsating with light. It contained humanity's legacy protocol, a detailed plan to rebuild and unite the galaxy. Ethan approached the structure, his hand trembling. As he touched it, visions flooded his mind. Scenes of humanity's final days, the desperate creation of the vault, and the hope that one day someone would find it. "This is what they were afraid of," he murmured, his voice filled with awe. "Not our weapons, but our potential. They knew we could create a galaxy where no one would ever stand alone." The Guardians bowed their heads. "You carry the future of your kind, but the Council will not allow this legacy to be reborn. They are already searching for you." Ethan turned to Zara and Minala, his resolve hardening. "Then we make sure they don't find us. We'll protect this legacy. We'll find the others. Humanity isn't finished. Not yet." The Council arrives. Before they could celebrate their discovery, alarms blared throughout the chamber. The Guardians' forms flickered urgently. "The Council is here," one warned. "They have breached the barrier." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Then we fight." The scene ends with the trio preparing for a desperate stand against the Council, their determination fueled by the newfound hope of humanity's rebirth. Humanity's legacy. The vault's glowing chamber pulsed with energy, as if alive with the anticipation of what was to come. Ethan, Zara, and Minala stood shoulder to shoulder, their faces lit by the soft radiance of the crystalline structure. Outside, the ominous hum of approaching council ships grew louder, their shadowy forms visible through the misty atmosphere. "How many are there?" Minala asked, her voice tight, as she checked the charge on her blaster. Zara's scanner beeped furiously. "Too many. We're outnumbered, outgunned, and cornered. Ethan's expression remained calm, but his green eyes burned with determination. Then we make them think twice about ever underestimating humanity again. The stand. The first wave of Council soldiers descended from their ships, their black armor gleaming in the eerie light of the planet. They moved with cold precision, their weapons scanning for targets. Ethan stepped forward, holding a small device the Guardians had given him, a fragment of the legacy protocol designed to disrupt the Council's communications. With a sharp click, he activated it, and the air filled with an ear-piercing hum. The soldiers faltered, their movements suddenly jerky and uncoordinated. Zara and Minala seized the moment, unleashing a volley of precise shots that disabled several enemies. "Nice trick," Zara said, a faint grin breaking through her tension. Ethan nodded, his grip tightening on the device. "It won't last long. We need to hold them here." The Council's true plan. As the battle raged, the trio found themselves pushed deeper into the vault. The Council's forces were relentless, their numbers overwhelming. Yet despite the chaos, Ethan noticed something strange. The soldiers weren't trying to destroy the crystalline structure. They were trying to extract it. "They're not here to wipe this place out," Ethan realized aloud. "They're here to take the legacy protocol." Zara's eyes widened. "If they get their hands on it, they'll erase everything." Minala finished grimly. "Every trace of humanity's potential." Ethan turned to the Guardians, who flickered faintly as the energy of the vault strained under the assault. "Is there a way to stop them?" The lead Guardian nodded. "The protocol can be secured, but doing so will disable the vault. Its energy will collapse inward, destroying this planet and everything on it." Zara glared at Ethan. "You're not seriously considering blowing us up, are you?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "If it means keeping the protocol out of their hands, I don't see another choice." "A risky plan." Minala stepped forward, her voice firm despite the fear in her eyes. "There's another way. If we can overload their ship's power cores, we could create a chain reaction. It would force them to retreat or destroy them outright." Zara raised an eyebrow. "And how do you plan to do that with what little we have?" Minala gestured to the glowing fissures on the planet's surface. "This whole place is a power source. If we channel it into their ships." Ethan interrupted. "We'd need to keep them here long enough to set it up." Zara sighed. "I hate this plan already." The final battle. The group sprang into action, splitting up to execute their desperate plan. Zara and Minala worked frantically to reroute the planet's energy into a focused surge, while Ethan and the Guardians held off the advancing soldiers. The Guardians used their control over the vault to create barriers and traps, slowing the enemy's progress. Ethan fought with a ferocity that surprised even himself, using scavenged weapons and his own ingenuity to outmaneuver the Council's forces. As the Council's lead ship descended to the surface, its massive shadow looming over the battlefield, Ethan activated his communicator. "Zara, how's it coming?" "Almost there." Zara's voice crackled through the comm. "Just keep them off us a little longer." The surge. With a deafening roar, the planet's energy surged upward, forming a massive arc of light that connected to the Council's lead ship. The ship's systems overloaded instantly, sparks and flames erupting from its hull. The other ships in the fleet, still tethered by their shared power network, began to falter as well. Minala's voice came over the comm, triumphant but strained. "We did it. Their fleet's disabled." The Guardians turned to Ethan, their glowing forms flickering weakly. "The protocol is safe, for now. But the Council will return. You must continue humanity's journey." Ethan nodded, his expression resolute. "We will. Humanity's story doesn't end here." The Legacy Reborn. The trio barely escaped the collapsing vault, their ship lifting off just as the planet's energy consumed itself in a brilliant explosion. The Council's fleet, crippled and leaderless, scattered into the void. As the ship drifted into the safety of deep space, Ethan inserted the legacy protocol into the ship's system. A holographic map of the galaxy appeared, filled with hundreds of blinking lights, potential locations of other cryostations. Minala stared at the map, her eyes wide. There are so many. Zara smirked, her usual sarcasm tempered by awe. Looks like we've got work to do. Ethan leaned back in his seat, a faint smile on his lips. This isn't just about humanity anymore. It's about building something better. For everyone. The camera pans out to show the ship disappearing into the vastness of space, leaving behind a galaxy forever changed by the spark of hope humanity had reignited.